30 years, we don't have the equipment to go out after the storm and de-ice a bridge like that. It is more dangerous to send employees up there than to just let the ice melt. And we spoke with public safety, who said, we do not have an issue, we can get to where we need to get to. So rather than put people in danger going up on that bridge, we chose to let the ice melt. Thank you.
Joshua Lewis, y'all ready for me? All right, let's go. So, we're talking about bridges. If you look at every bridge, it's gonna say the bridge ices before the road. And I know this because I'm a commercial truck driver by trade. So in saying that you have to use preparations, what do we use on the 171, Gerson Memorial, Highway 14? Because it has several names. Whatever we used on that bridge, just carry it over. Because clearly it worked for that bridge. So whatever implementation we use for that bridge, just carry it over to the other two. It's a simple fix. We have a lot of knowledge and great leadership. You just gotta kind of bump heads and just relate ideas. I live in Chicago. People walk around snow and ice all the time. So it's a simple fix. We have dozers in town if you want to scrape the bridge. You can easily contract out to someone. We have the equipment here. We just gotta use our resources. We're Cajuns. We'll get shovels and pickaxes. We'll figure it out. Thank you for your time.
All right, first question is done. So we'll start with a series of questions that will go directly to each candidate, and you can rebut as we go forward. The first question is for Mr. Ardoin. As a community mentor, I've witnessed brilliant young people graduate and leave Lake Charles, attend college, and never come home. We continue to lose brilliant minds to other states and cities that are more advanced than Lake Charles. What would your administration do to ensure that Lake Charles is equipped to prepare economically to keep these brilliant young people at home after college?
Well, first of all, we have to diversify our industry because right now petrochemical is an attraction. So the ones who aren't in petrochem, they leave. But it's from an economic standpoint. We'd have to diversify our portfolio. So look at clean energy sources. Look at tech sources. I mean, Tesla's going to be right there in Austin. We got to figure out a way to tap into that. There's all kinds of ways for us to do it, but if we stay focused on petrochemical only, then they're going to continue to leave. That's just something that we have to figure out.
Well, I think that the biggest issue why people leave and don't come back to the area, because it's been said many times, there's nothing to do here. Every time that there's a business that opens up, it caters to one specific type of group of people. So when people are looking for things to get involved in, they don't feel welcome. And anytime you don't feel welcome into an industry, you start to move around and you start to go where you do feel welcome. And that's what's causing our young people to leave the area and not return. So we need to focus on bringing things that are catering to family involvement and, entertaining. That would be the fix.
Thank you. Well, absolutely, economic diversity is key. We want to attract young men and women who are from Lake Charles to stay here, and also we want to attract new people into this city. So I can tell you that economic diversity is huge. We will be announcing soon an LNG Center for Excellence. This will be a cutting-edge center. It will be located here in Lake Charles. It will absolutely be a feather in our cap because petrochem is a very shaky industry. However, LNG has a much more stable and brighter future for the long haul than oil does. We will be announcing a regional STEM center here in Lake Charles to go tackle our young men and women and bombard them with the knowledge and the wisdom that they need for those jobs of the future, because again, we want them to learn and get excited about those jobs and stay here. We have empowered Chenault, which is an amazing opportunity for economic diversity for this city. We have built on relationships with Sewella and McNeese. We have internships at City Hall with Sewella and McNeese. Finished? Okay, thank you. If you could go over those signs again so we know what they are, please.
So 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds and count you down from 10 to 1.
All right.
Sorry about that.
My turn? Let's go. So, it's relatively simple. It's easy. Nobody want to do these big speeches, go all around the park. You go to Sewell, you go to McNeese, you find out what degree programs they offer. See what the people are graduating in. Are there jobs in these fields? No. Well, we get those. We get those tech-savvy jobs. It's relatively simple. We have all this brilliance. We have all this knowledge here. You know why people don't stay? Because of the money. Everybody's here because of money. We love each other, granted. And you have some fields where people are in it for their heart and passion. Half of us, or more than majority of us, do the stuff we do for the money. That's what keeps people here, money. So you find fields that people are graduating in, that they're using their education in, that pay money, that bring tourism in, that brings more money. Thank you.
We'll go with the next question.
Question number 2 is for you, Mr. Bernard. The 22-story Capital One Tower in downtown Lake Charles was a cornerstone in the Lake Charles skyline. It was severely damaged during the August 2021 arrival of Hurricane Laura. How do we ensure that the tower is structurally sound before another storm arrives? And how can we attract new businesses and tourists to be patrons of this historic building?
Well, first of all, in order to make sure that the building is structurally sound, you need to have an engineer look at it and make sure that the structure was not damaged beyond repair. As previous stated, that they are going through insurance claims on the building, so it will be rebuilt. But like I stated previous, we need to make the businesses make sense, make them family oriented, so that people will want to partake in the industries that we offer. Thank you.
Well, the city of Lake Charles does not own that tower. I mean, it is a privately owned building, so really it's up to the owner what they want to do with it. I can tell you that I had visited with the owner, and he has told me that they are going through that insurance process right now, as so many of us in this room know how that is. I can tell you that they have assets throughout this country. They have buildings in New Orleans that were there during Hurricane Katrina, and their words to me were that what Laura did to that building was 3 times the damage of any building they had in New Orleans for Katrina. So ultimately it's up to the owner, but I can tell you this, I want to see it renovated. It's iconic, and I don't mind saying this publicly, and I told it to the owners. What I cannot allow is we cannot allow it to stay the way it looks for a long period of time. Personally, and I hate to say this, I would rather see it torn down than have it stay the way it looks right now, and we won't allow that to happen.
All right, next question.
No,
I'm sorry, Josh, I'm sorry.
appreciate it. So, to piggyback off Nick, if it stay that way a long time, tear it down. To piggyback off of, well, I'm just gonna go home. All right, so insurance. Insurance is important. You have an insurable building. It's a private owner. You put a deadline on it. You get it done. So, also it's a 2-part fold. In the event that we get changing weather, any other conditions, you block off the surrounding roads around it to keep public safety. That is the most important part of it. You hire an engineer, like it was stated before, and you also, once it's renovated, because it's a staple point of our town, those tech-savvy jobs that we're gonna bring in, those people would like nice, shiny offices so they can work in to bring us more money. Thank you.
Yes.
Next question.
So to clear, so that was
Next.
rebuttals that we did?
Yes, that was rebuttal. Next question.
This question is for Mayor Hunter. We are 94 days away from hurricane season, and individuals are growing increasingly worried that we will not be prepared for hurricane season 2021. Instead, we will still be in recovery mode from hurricane season 2020. Is there room for us to walk and chew gum at the same time and be prepared while we recover? If so, how do we do it?
Well, certainly, there is no way that we're going to be out of recovery by the time hurricane season comes around. It's just not going to happen. But I can tell you that every year, whether we have a hurricane or not, annually, we review all of our emergency preparedness plans, and we're in the process of doing that right now, every department. And again, those lessons that were learned from Hurricane Rita in 2005, those lessons that were learned from last year, every time we go through something like that, it makes us better. I mentioned the ice storm a moment ago, and I am very confident in saying this. What we were hit with last year, a Category 4, followed by a Category 2 6 weeks later, we are further along right now than we were at this point after Hurricane Rita. And I believe that strongly. When you look at the amount of debris we have picked up, when you look at the amount of money and milestones we have received from the federal government, we are further along right now, 6 months, than we were 6 months out from Hurricane Rita. Absolutely, we can chew gum and walk at the same time. I have faith in my department heads, and I have faith in our city employees. Thank you.
We're open for rebuttals. No rebuttals, then we will move on to the next question.
Okay, question 4 is from Mr. Lewis. North Lake Charles has become a food desert. Do you have a plan to bring grocery stores and resources back to North Lake Charles? And if so, what is that plan? And please include a time frame in that plan.
Okay, first of all, we need to work with our local resources, what we have. We have the C Center, which empowers local businesses. Because the first thing I want to do is give a local joker a shot at owning their own business in their own community. We're going to exhaust that revenue, and we're going to exhaust that opportunity, and we're not going to take long at it. We give them from start to finish, give them a year span. Then after that, they need adequate time to come back to a board or a council and review on that. Also, after that, there are several parts in the city that need groceries, that need pharmacies and things of that sort. So before we allow another grocery store to come into town, we have to review the population of said areas and place grocery stores in jobs where people need some. I rode around for the ice storm, where most were in their homes. When that Walmart was closed, I went to Ross's that was way on the other side of town. I went to Albertsons and I went to Kroger's, and I retrieved groceries for people on all sides of town. It's an extremely long walk for an individual that does not have transportation. That public transportation was not available. So, for saying that forward, providing grocery and jobs in those communities are important, especially in the north side, especially in central, because a mayor should be a mayor of the whole entire city. Thank you.
Rebut. So I grew up on this side of town, and when I grew up, we had grocery stores all over the place. We had Park and Shop, we had Preston's, we had George Terrio's, we had Triplets. And the one thing they all had in common was they were independent shops. So the solution that we have is to first go out and try to get the big chain shops, and if they won't come, then we help empower our individuals here, get private-public partnership together to get them to open a store, and then we support that in the neighborhood. It's not impossible to do. When in the 80s and 90s we supported them, and they were continually being patronized, and I don't think that's something that we have to wait long for. I can start working on that in my first 100 days.
Well, I recently had a phone conversation with the chain Winn-Dixie and also Piggly Wiggly. And the issue that they had with coming in and doing business here, they didn't want to build from the ground up. So as long as there are adequate spacing, there are grocery stores that are willing to come into the community and start doing business on the north side.
Man, Mr. Bernard, I'd like to know you spoke with the Winn-Dixie, because I've also spoken with Winn-Dixie, and they were not interested. I have spoken with, at this point, about 5 grocery store chains, and we have thrown, we've thrown the kitchen sink at them. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to give you false promises. This industry is difficult right now. I was visiting with Mayor Broom in Baton Rouge, and she has an initiative to bring a grocery store to North Baton Rouge. That initiative's been going on for 4 years now, and she hasn't had luck yet. She thinks she's closer. But I can tell you, with our economic development districts and what we can do with incentives, we are certainly closer than we have been in the past. But if someone says it's just a matter of picking up a phone and calling somebody, that has been done. We have had meetings, we have invited them, and I think we're going to have to get creative. And those economic development districts certainly put us in a better position than we have been in the past. Thank you.
Well, Mayor Hunter, you know, it's kind of hard to believe that you spoke with anybody to do anything on the north side of Lake Charles, because they haven't seen any of your results during your 4-year term.
All right, so we'll move on to the next question.
Question number 5. This question is for Mr. Ardoin. You are a 2-time Grammy Award nominee. How do these nominations play into your qualifications to manage the city of Lake Charles?
Well, like you said, I'm a 2-time Grammy nominee, so obviously I have never managed a city. But I have managed a small business, and I've been a small business owner for over 25 years. And being a small business owner, you have to know how I've learned and I've practiced networking, prospecting, negotiating, say no, be told no, I hire, I fire, I project the budget, I project the vision for the business, and then I hire personnel to accomplish that vision. So see, what you gotta understand is the success skills are transferable. I'm successful no matter where I go. When I go here, I'm successful because I understand business, I understand people, I understand managing people. Now, as far as the city's concerned, I would have to hire a city manager, a city administrator. That city administrator would then be tasked with the day-to-day efforts of getting the vision that I cast done. And together with the city administrator, we build a team to make all that stuff happen. So, in short, because my small business is successful, and there's evidence of that as said in your question, then that's evidence that it's going to be success when I'm in City Hall. Because everybody who knows me knows that I grind. Everybody who knows me knows that I don't take no for an answer. Everybody who knows me knows that if I got it on my mind and I got it in my heart, I move hell and high water to make it happen. And right now, I'm disrupting my life to make sure that Lake Charles does not go by the wayside. I will move hell and high water to make sure that we win, and if you elect me, we will win.
Well, that's nice speech. But if we go back in the history in the 80s, we had a musician that was mayor in Lake Charles. Paul Savoy, many may remember him from that time. And at the end of his term, the city was almost bankrupt. We don't have time to sit back because somebody has a nomination. They're the only person in that category and they hadn't won it. So let's really focus on what's really going on. This is not a trophy that you add to your case.
Okay, for someone who drives a trash truck and has never been promoted, you're gonna talk about a Grammy nomination. I would never do that, but he came into my business, he came in front of these people, and he's playing dirty. I don't do that. I was responding because he called me out, and if I don't, then I look weak to some people. But the way I operate is usually above board, but this is a little much. I work hard, I grind, and I have results. He can show his results when he gets some.
You're absolutely right. I drive a garbage truck. So I relate to many of the people here and in the community that go through a day-to-day struggle on trying to make things work. Now, going a little bit further, that I have not broadcast my business. I have an international distribution company online, and you can look it up. KODPM.com is King of Diamond Production and Management. I have not used my platform to promote my business at all. So there you go, Mr. Ardoin.
All right, it's Mr. Say It With Your Chest. Mr. Sean is a brilliant brother. I like him, I really do. I love the brother. But all the Grammy nominating and Grammy boy and all that, what have they done for us during this pandemic? What have they done for us during these 2 storms? I ain't seen nobody on the Grammy except Sean. He got the plug. Dude got all the connects on the phone. Last night, the Grand Ole Opry had a concert wherever they were for feeding the people of America. It was online. So where's the Grammy plugs at? Where all these big connections? And to Mr. International Distribution, what did y'all do for the city? Because I ain't seen nothing either. Respectfully.
Okay, fed over 1,500 people after the storm in the terrace. Whenever Suddenlink didn't show up, did a drive to raise to buy over 100 digital antennas and gave them out so that people could be connected and see what was on the news. Volunteered at SWLA, drove 3 hours in from Beaumont, drove 3 hours back, and on Christmas was part of a team because I don't believe that you should do stuff on your own, and I don't believe in duplication of services, but I was a part of a team that served over 10,000 people and got them presents for Christmas. And as far as the Grammy thing, when I win, we'll do a concert and we'll raise money to help the homeless people that you and I helped during the freeze.
That's all good, my brother.
We'll give the final comment to Mr. Lewis.
Oh, that's all good, my brother. Again, you well polished. You graduated college and I did. I shot myself. But the question you danced around was, what did all them Grammy plugs, what did all them big dollar connections do for us? I seen what you did, and I applaud you, brother. God bless you for the work that you've done. Because me and you work together. But you got $1 million people in your phone. What is it, homie? Respectfully.
All right, thank you, respectfully. All right, so the debate scores getting a little hot. So we're going to be taking throughout the night questions from our small business owners. Can we get up for small business owners in the house tonight? Make some noise for them. And our first question is going to come from Mr. Michael. Introduce yourself as you come to the microphone and ask your question.
Good evening, guys. My name is Michael Boyer. I'm owner of River Rat Rentals. I don't think so. Turn the mic on? Turn it on? No, it's on. It's on. All right. My name is Michael Boyer. I'm the owner of River Rat Rentals and district manager of McDonald's of Coxsackie Parish. My question, is it going to somebody in general or just? You decide. Okay. I don't really. Mr. Bernard. A little over 10 years ago, I was robbed at gunpoint in my home for 26 minutes by 5 guys at 12:08 a.m. Police took 37 minutes to get to my house on an armed robbery in progress call. We all know Lake Charles needs more highly motivated officers to help reduce the crime rate, which has increased in the last couple of years. If elected, how are you going to address these issues of retaining officers, response times, training them without a facility or a gun range, and what is your stance on Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and defunding the police?
Well, first of all, I don't believe that we should defund the police. Any type of funding that you take away from them takes away from the resources that are needed in our communities. I apologize for what happened to you. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was a dramatic experience, but there are things that we can do to improve because we have a lack of police presence out in our communities. So we need to step that up, and also we need to be proactive with getting other resources and programs in place to curb our young and youth from going out and committing these crimes. Now, my stance on Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, not just black. Thank you.
Rebuttals, yes.
Ooh, this one comes some smoke? Well, let's come on with it. You need to say it with your chest, homie, because Black Lives Matter. We all know all lives matter because they always did. So I stand on what I say and I mean it. Now let me say this. With Antifa, I don't support no terroristic groups. So guess what? If Black Lives Matter turned into a terroristic group, then I wouldn't support that. I support the message behind it, not a group. I don't know too much about it. If you look back, I marched with T.I. a couple years back in Atlanta when we shut down the bridge. Now, Mike, you say you was robbed at gunpoint. Now, I was robbed also in my house. I had some dudes inside wanted to kill me. And I ain't never called the police because I handled it the street way. Now, I can't tell y'all all the details of everything how it happened, but I'm still alive. So, let me say this, my brother. I think police importance I think it's prominent. I donate to the police fund. Now, I grew up in a neighborhood where police and community relations weren't there. That's why the first step on my plan is the handshake initiative between police and community and neighborhood relations. I think that we need to empower our young people to go back to work. And we need to embrace that. That way they want to police their neighborhoods. That way they... Oh,
Thank you, thank you. As first of all, we can get to safety by having increased patrols, but we can only do that by having more police officers. We have access as a city to the COPS grant, where we can hire more cops. where we can hire more police officers to get ourselves at a nice level. And so I would look into that, applying that grant to get more police officers so that we can put them in the neighborhoods. Absolutely, Black Lives absolutely matter. Antifa does not exist. It is a figment of the imagination, but that has nothing to do with me being mayor, because I can't control abortion. I can't control any of that stuff. But what I can control is what we do in this city. And I will fight for this city. Like I said, fight for this city, fight for this city. And bro, tell T.I. to call so he can do the stuff you asked for a while ago.
All right, so return back to our moderators, to Mr. Trotter.
The next question is for Mr. Bernard. Many have complained that the minority candidates should have gotten together and supported one candidate rather than 3 minorities running against each other. Would you have supported such a meeting? Why or why not?
Well, that's a great question, because we actually, all 3 of us got together and had a meeting. Mr. Ordwin said he could win on popularity.
No, he didn't. Tell it right.
No.
Tell it at all.
Josh said that all he needed was a seat at the table and he would back out of the election. We had a plan. I had given my plan. I worked for the city. So I have the support of most of the workers. But we did have that meeting, and you see the results.
Okay. I heard that Josh was running after I decided to run. I ran into one of my friends and said, hey, can you make a meeting? He said, yes, I can. He said, well, there's another guy, Jesse. I didn't realize it was my friend Jesse, who I thought was my friend until a few minutes ago. And we're still friends. And so we got together to meet. And when we got there at the beginning of the meeting, they said, well, Sean, you will win the popularity vote. And he said, but my platform is better. And then Josh said, well, I'm just. And I said, well, if your platform is better and I'm just, but y'all both said that I would win the popularity contest, why don't we figure out how to make this thing work? They both looked at me, and I'm not gonna tell you what they said because of course I said I'm gonna take the high road. But as you see, we're here now. I was willing to work, and with their own volition, I was gonna win the popularity vote, and we're still here today.
First of all, we need to tell the truth. We did have a meeting, and they all had to come see me, because everybody knew I was running about a year ago. And I know my tone real strong, because that's me, and I'm a man. So when my aunt died last New Year's Eve, I was in California handling business. My aunt was everything to me, and I devoted my entire campaign to her. That's my sole reason for running. They had to get rumors from everybody else that I was running, because I was running up a year ago, and I've been said this. Now, granted, these are 2 great brothers. One works for the city that don't nobody know, and a lot of people know Sean. So, Mr. Bernard got some great ideas. Sean got great intelligence. Both of them, me and Jesse agreed to work with Sean. That was cool. Nobody wanted to work up under me, and then Sean didn't want to work up under Jesse, and that was the truth. But you can't do that because it's unethical. We just had aired out conversations. So I say this: I congratulate those 2 brothers for running up under me, because I'm the Democratic president. So they my predecessors. Thank you, little brothers.
All right, we're gonna go ahead to.
Can we get Nick a question?
It's next.
Okay.
Well, if it makes y'all feel any better, I did have a meeting with myself and convinced myself to run.
What y'all saying? What y'all saying when y'all
all right. So we're gonna go to the next question, and it is for Mayor Hunter. You are a graduate of St. Louis Catholic High School. Currently, there's a plan to move the school from historic downtown Lake Charles. Do you support the plan or not? And if so, how do we keep St. Louis in its current location?
Sure. Well, actually, I have some pretty strong emotions about this, and I wrote a letter to the bishop. I had a meeting with him early last month, and I believe that letter really clearly says how I feel about it. I have grave concerns about the move. So anyone that really wants to know the exact mindset that I have, Teresa Schmidt has that letter posted. I would encourage you to go read it. But let me also say this: I'm a Catholic, and I also kind of know the hierarchy, and I can do more with what I have done right now in my meetings with the bishop and meetings with others than coming out and beating my chest about something and politicizing something. So I encourage anyone that wants to know very clearly the way I stand on it, go read that letter. There's no bones about it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Sean. No, I'm gonna clean the floor. No, you don't want this one. I promise you. Go ahead.
Someone go, or we're gonna move on to the next question.
All right. Now y'all wanted it with me. Let me show you what this is. Lake Charles, Boston High School. Why they talking about save the tradition? Stop being disrespectful, because my tradition is dead. My school is closed. You trying to move a school. They got an old spiritual that my grandmother used to sing. There's a leak in this old building. In my soul, it gotta move. So if it's gonna move, it's all because of capitalism. So it's amazing that this school could raise that much money that fast. They got $1,000 minimum donations. Say my school is closed. If it goes to Morgan Field, it's all off capitalism. You got to think about it. So for me, put a plan in place. If you move that school on that 15 acres, put St. Louis Court there so that you can bring the property value up in that neighborhood so that Morgan Field can win and everybody win. Under Joshua Lewis administration, let's all win. Let's think forward. Let's have a plan in place and let's not have a place that's be deserted in the neighborhood and the property value go down. Thank you.
Any rebuttals? No rebuttals.
Awesome, great. All right, so next question.
Okay, the next question is for Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis, according to election officials at qualifying, you gave a mailing address and separate address where you live, and neither is in the city limits. The deadline to challenge you in this election has passed, and thus you are a candidate. However, according to officials, if you win, you could face prosecution. Can you explain what is going on with this matter and clear it up for the last time?
So I apologize. I'm moving fast, and I have a copy of the charter in my briefcase. I have more than one address because I got more than one home. Coming from the community I'm from, you want to make sure that your family's privacy is kept private. I have one address as a mailing address, and I have one address listed as a domicile. As you stated, the period to contest me upon running is over with. So upon electing Joshua Lewis, we will have to have a court date where me and Stephen Dwight will have to sit in the courtroom and we'll have to decide on the fact that I did not spend this much money for me to run if I ever had an inkling that I could lose. I'm gonna beat these dudes head up. This 10,000 votes, and I said that. So let me say something else to throw a bone in your chest. I can say it like a man that I didn't get a dime from nobody and I wasn't paid off. Can these other cats say that they wasn't had no bread paid to them to run? Respectfully.
I absolutely can say it. I funded my own campaign. And we all know that on March 20th, the day of election, once the votes have been concluded, that following Monday, if Mr. Lewis gets the leg up, or if myself or Sean can say that the votes that he got could have put us over the other candidate, it can be contested and will be contested. And at that time, the election can be thrown out, and then the process will have to be redone again. And we all know people tend not to want to come back out and vote.
Oh, y'all want this smoke? Told you to leave me alone. This the pay matrix right here, buddy. So I know exactly what you make, but I ain't gonna embarrass you, Jack. I wanna know how you get to afford to do this on your little bit of salary, homie.
I'm sorry, we're asking the questions, Mr. Lewis, not you. And we'll move on to the next question.
Next question is for Mr. Sean Audouin. Police relations, particularly in communities of color, have been and continue to be an issue in the city of Lake Charles. How do we create more cohesive relationships between police and communities of color?
That's a great question. First of all, I grew up in this neighborhood, and when I grew up, we actually knew most of the officers in this area, and that created a very good experience whenever we had encounters with the police. So I'm in favor of a stronger investment in community policing, and that will get us less incidents, because whenever you know somebody and you're familiar with somebody, you're less likely to be combative when they ask you to do something. And like I said earlier, with the COPS grant, We have the ability to hire more police officers. And so in a community of color, I would like to concentrate on hiring more officers of color so that we can have them in those neighborhoods and police those neighborhoods. Because when someone looks like you, you're less likely to be intimidated or threatened by someone who looks like you. The other thing is, whenever you have the officers in the community on a regular basis, whenever you have someone that might have a mental disability, if the call goes out to that officer and he gets there, he'll know that person and he'll have a relationship with that person, so he'll be less likely to have an incident because his voice should be a calming factor to that individual. So community policing, we get it done by using the COPS grant, and that's how I believe we can reduce all these incidents and make the community a better place to live. Thank you.
So, my rebuttal is, thank you, Sean. I like that, brother. Really intelligent brother. All that describes the first line in my plan, the handshake initiative. Now, COVID makes it a little bit difficult at this time. I grew up in the projects. I don't know about these fellas. Holla down. So I'm saying that we had an officer named Mr. Mario. It was relatable. I knew Mr. Mario from growing up as a kid, so as I grew up, we grew a relationship. And I want to put that in these neighborhoods, that way these kids can grow up and want to be officers in these neighborhoods that are disenfranchised, that are broken down, that we won't have the lack in police force, and they have people that can serve their communities. Now, when you know somebody, again, what Sean said, is more relatable, is more understandable, you know their needs, it's more of a friendship and a family member respect. And that's what all first responders, because all of our first responders need to do that, and that's all a part of the handshake initiative, the first rule on Joshua Lewis's plan. Thank you.
May I? Mr. Ardoin has mentioned the COPS grant a couple times, and we do utilize the COPS grant currently. The City of Lake Charles utilizes the COPS grant. Additionally, we've changed our marketing strategy. Absolutely, we need to have a police force that is more representative of this community. We changed our marketing strategy. I came in office in 2017, and 2016, the entirety of LCPD was composed of 13% minority. That number today is 22%. It's not where it needs to be, but it's progress. It's better, and that happened under my administration. Additionally, when I came in office, we had no African American that was part of the senior leadership at the police department, and we changed that under my administration. We have a deputy chief who is an African American, but I want to say this because I have so much respect for that gentleman. He was not hired because he's black. He was hired because he had the dedication and the experience and the know-how and the heart for this community. Yes. Thank you.
All right, so before we go to the next question, we're going to get another question from the audience, and it's going to come from actually our pre-host today, Mr. LaVon Fondo.
Okay. Turn your mic on. Check, check. All right. All right, so now my question is for Mr. Nick Hunter. I'm going to go ahead and ask the question that I feel everybody wants to know the answer to, but we keep skating around it. 4 years ago, you were elected. We didn't know what plan you had for the North Side. Now you're up for re-election. In detail, you do own or are part owner of a restaurant that is on the South Side or downtown, however you say. Not sure if you would move it to the North Side if that opportunity presented itself. But what is your detailed plan for bringing some kind of life to the North Side of Lake Charles?
Sure. Well, let's talk about facts. Let's not talk about pie in the sky. Let's not talk about, again, pithy comments. Let's talk about facts. District A is the largest geographic district in Lake Charles, and it encompasses what people traditionally think of as North Lake Charles. Let's talk about investment in District A alone for a second. The 4 years before I came into office, there was $5.6 million allocated to capital improvement projects for District A. Under my administration, that $5.6 million is over $9 million for District A. That's a 61% increase in capital improvements projects for this district. I dare anyone to challenge me on that. That's the truth. I got so many receipts in front of me right now, it would take me 10 minutes to go through every project we've done in this district. But I can't do it because I got 2 minutes. But let me talk about economic development districts on Enterprise Boulevard. How long has it been since we have something of a multi-million-dollar significance north of Broad Street on Enterprise Boulevard? We landed the Acadian Ambulance Regional Headquarters. Multi-million-dollar project, went and took over a building that was blight on the community that had been vacant for years. It's a multi-million-dollar project bringing 120 jobs to that location. Not only is it economic development, it's an EMS academy. That's workforce development. And we have people from the neighborhood. Mr. Livings is building his project just north of that, AA Billiards. We have another one that's about to be announced in a few weeks. So absolutely, we have had progress. Those economic development districts have reaped results, and we're going to continue to do that. Thank you.
So that's a cultural district, and Acadian Ambulance doesn't seem like a cultural district type business. And so I was a little curious about how you build up a cultural district and an economic district with Acadian Ambulance. But I mean, it does look good, and it did take care of the blight. And I want to thank Mr. Livings for investing in his community, and the restaurant that's coming down the street. I want to thank him for coming as well. But we've got to look at how much we can take credit for and what we can't take credit for. You can't take credit for the Acadian Ambulance.
I'll take credit for every one of those. Economic development districts have not occurred before my administration. Those things would not have happened if it wasn't for those economic development districts. Every one of those got incentive packages from my administration.
No matter rebuttal, if that's it, we're good.
So continue with Mr. Dronger.
This question is for Mr. Bernard. Juvenile crime continues to be a problem, not just in Lake Charles, but throughout the United States. On the home front, what would your administration do to tackle this problem?
Well, as I stated before, we need programs where we can have mentors from businesses, pastors, counselors. These children are a lot of times left without a parenting figure at home because most of the families have to work multiple jobs in order to make their ends meet. So these children are left dormant at home, watching TV, playing video games. So they go out and they try to reenact a lot of these things that are taking place that they're seeing on television. So we curved that by having the mentoring programs put in place, someone that can actually work with them when the parents are not available. A lot of times we depend on the school systems. The children are in the school for 8 hours a day. They come home. The parents are still at work until at nighttime. So they're left alone for a great bit of the time. So if there's something in place, then that will curb a lot of the activity that's going on.
Sean, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay. No. All right. Real quick. You got to go back to breakdown. And I say the tough stuff that nobody want to say. I love everyone, especially this blended panel of gentlemen up here that's running for mayor. We need to go back and find the root. The root broke down when Biden introduced the 3-strike laws that locked a lot of men up. You got to go back to segregation. I love my brothers and sisters, and I love everyone. You have to go back to community development. You had the day where the guy down the street was the mechanic. You had the trash truck guy. You had the carpenter. They would teach kids crafts. Cajuns helping Cajuns. Teaching people how to fish, how to hunt. We've gotten away from that. We're so worried about our own families. We're so worried about peacocking and shining on people. We don't look out for our neighbors. The most beautiful part about these last tragedies and storms, we rolled up our sleeves. It didn't matter where you were from or where you were at. We helped each other, and that was beautiful. It's unfortunate that times like this have to come and go. I wish we could stay like this all the time because in these times, we've stayed together. Thank you.
Also, I proposed a public-private partnership between the city, the parish, the school board, industry, the medical field, and all entrepreneurs. And I want to call it the village, all right? Because when we were growing up, we had things to do. Now, if we can get all these people together, because it takes a village to raise a child, if we can get all these people together and have them establish mentorship, internships, we can get them mental health counseling, conflict resolution, anger management counseling, and then we can get them internships and mentorships. We can get them more interested in finishing school, which will then raise the scores, which will then raise the property values here, which will then make it a very attractive place whenever we go out to get these businesses to come. And again, the village will help us to get these children focused and moving and busy. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is for Mayor Hunter, and this comes from online. What issues do you feel your current administration could have or should have handled differently, and how would you have handled those issues better in the future?
Well, I'll tell you, with the pandemic, if you would have told me 4 years ago when I was running for mayor what we would have gone through, I don't know if I would have believed it. I remember at McNeese, when I was studying history, there was an author I really liked, and he wrote a book about the Spanish flu of 1918. I thought to myself, I'm never going to need to read that book. You know, we're never going to have another pandemic again. Boy, was I wrong. I have a whole new appreciation for public health and a whole new appreciation for the intricate nature of public health. And so, you know, I think moving forward, every local government cannot just assume that we'll never have another pandemic again. We've got to learn lessons from what happened this past year. And I tell you, I cannot believe that it has become controversial, but I am proud that I listened to medical experts. You know, I listen to local medical trusted experts. And I think we can all local government across this country cannot just assume that another pandemic is going to be 100 years away. Thank you.
So, rebuttal? Okay. So normally I'm a slam guy, but I can't do that this time. I applaud our mayor and administration for what they've done. What I would have done differently is I've got resources from a different angle. See, I didn't come from well-off families. We come from nothing. So I've learned to survive and make do with any and everything. That teaches how to use every tool in the toolbox and tools that aren't tools. When you have that type of survival, when you have that type of hustle, knowledge, and knack, you learn how to prepare, how to defend, and how to look forward and extend. With those resources, it adds all kind of different opportunities. Thank you.
Okay, question number 12 is for Mr. Lewis. There's controversy dealing with the expanding enterprise to 171 has been going on since the Randy Roach administration. Many suggestions have been brought forth. One suggestion includes extending enterprise to 171 and turning it into a Riverwalk entertainment complex with restaurants, social clubs, and business offices. Do you believe this idea will increase economic output of North Lake Charles? Or do you believe this kind of expansion would be detrimental to the area? Tell us why.
You want this one?
Yes, sir.
Come on with it. I think the Enterprise Boulevard was a big old waste of money. You just need to spend some money in District 8, and that's what happened. Because guess what? It's still desolate. Now, granted, the only thing prominent about following Enterprise all the way out to 171 is due to evacuations, you have another route of passage. If 171, this strip here, is barren, and people go from here to Moss Bluff and don't stop, what do you think they're going to do when you add another lane? You lessen traffic, you've hurt more businesses, and you're weakening the economy here. Now, granted, you need to add more jobs. You need to add more businesses and resources, but why not fix what we already have? Riding along I-10 corridor, it's an eyesore, and we have a beautiful city. Start where you already have issues, fix those, then move forward. Don't just waste money and say we spent money in the area and the district. Thank you.
Okay, I think that if we do this right, it could be something that could improve the tax base in North Lake Charles. It's my understanding that Marshall Simeon started this thing, he called it the Triangle of Commerce, and it's like a roundabout at Fritz and Ryder to go to Enterprise Boulevard. My suggestion would be to rezone that to make it a mixed zone, mixed business and residential in certain places, so that we can, when Moss Bluff traffic is going to relieve the traffic on 171, and when Moss Bluff people are coming and they go down Fritz and Ryder, if we have a store or something for them to shop and spend money in North Lake Charles, that would definitely help out, because the number one problem with us bringing the businesses that we need is that our per capita income down here is not up to par. And we don't have the business, the business metric to be able to show them that it's a viable entity. So anything that we can do to help increase the viability of North Lake Charles, I think we should do.
I think that it would be beneficial, but to add to it, I think that we need to focus on getting more homes back in North Lake Charles so that our residents can return home. Because what good does it do to have a street and no one's over here? We need to focus on getting our citizens back in their homes and back on their property.
No more rebuttals? All right, so we'll move on. Before we go to the next question, we want to say, are you guys enjoying the great debate so far? Enjoying yourself? Awesome. Also want to say hello to the over 700 people joining us online right now. Thank you for joining us as well. So the next question will come from a small business owner, Ms. Deborah Kinnison.
So, Nick.
Mic not on.
It's not on, so I can So I have a question about, you just talked about the Enterprise Boulevard and the incentives.
Yes, ma'am.
So is that still the Nelly Electric that they had talked about some years ago? Is that the incentives you're referring to?
Well, the incentives are new, but
Okay.
it is the Nelly Electric Cultural District.
Okay, I was just wondering because I do have some property right across from where,
I know you do.
yeah, and
I want you to come talk to me.
I will.
Let me give you some
I will.
incentives.
I have a group that we're working
All right.
on some things right now, and then we're gonna present it to you guys.
Excellent.
And also, you've said that things were in place from DC and the state. You said that you had some things in place. So do you have any type of confirmation on what the progress is for the help for Lake Charles?
Are you talking about storm related, or what are you talking about right now?
Storm related.
Storm related? Sure, I can comment on that. So after Hurricane Laura, there were people that told me we would never get to a 90-10 reimbursement formula. We would never get 90% federal, we'd never get 10%. And there were even more people that told me we would never get 100% FEMA reimbursement. That was not gonna happen ever again in the future of FEMA. We got both. And let me tell you, that was a group effort. That was locals, states, and federal officials working together, and those milestones saved local taxpayers millions of dollars. FEMA also typically does not pick up commercial, and we got that from FEMA. That was an extraordinary allowance that we received from FEMA. The next greatest milestone is CDBG DR dollars. That stands for Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery dollars. The Biden administration and representatives from my administration have spoken, and we are confident, we are optimistic that we will get a sizable allocation of dollars, and that will help fill the gap for homeowners between what their insurance paid and what it actually cost them to rebuild their homes. So we have achieved a lot from the federal government, and we're going to continue to plead our case. Just last week, I was speaking with Secretary Janet Yellen, U.S. Secretary of the Treasury. She was so inspired by what's going on here in Lake Charles. We had a follow-up conversation. She's asked to use us as an example with an upcoming speech that she's giving to the National League of Cities. We are getting attention from Washington, D.C. right now.
Okay. My brother, I just got, well, I can't ask a question.
No.
Oh,
Just real quick.
okay, so my rebuttal is, one would, I think I made to do this. Respect.
So we'll move on.
We will move on respectfully. The next question is going to come from Ms. Tammy Guillory.
Carrie, can I ask one more question?
Not right now. Go ahead.
My question. My question is for Mayor Hunter. Do you have anything else in place for funding for small businesses in the area that have been destroyed through the hurricane due to insurance underpaying us and I've been out of business for 6 months. So I'm looking to see if the city has anything planned in the future to help small businesses to get us back on our feet.
Thank you for that question. Small Business Stabilization Fund. It's the first of its kind in the history of Lake Charles. We used, again, CDBG CARES Act dollars for that. We just handed out our first checks to local business owners over the last few weeks, $5,000 forgivable loans to 24 locally owned businesses. Never happened before in the city of Lake Charles. When's the last time you heard about government actually reducing fees or reducing taxes? Do you know for 2021, you might not have realized this, some of you, but we reduced occupational licenses by 50% for this city. Now the maximum benefit is $100. Golden Nugget wasn't exactly rejoicing when they got $100 off their occupational license, but I guarantee you there's a lot of small businesses that $100 helped them pay the light bill. We have had seminars about how to do business with the city of Lake Charles, Franchising 101. We've had successful Small Business Expo. We had the highest number of people show up at a Small Business Expo talk when we had Chris Moe, the CEO of Waiter, there. So we want to give our small business owners the tools that they need. When we emerged from the shutdown after the pandemic, we launched Shop Safely LC, where we highlighted businesses that had reopened and encouraged people to shop safely. It was okay to visit some of these businesses if they were indeed adhering to the proper protocols. Our EDDs that we spoke about, Economic Development Districts, we have, the council has voted on 5 incentive packages. 4 were for locally owned small businesses. And of course, we still have our Small Business Opportunity Program. We'll continue to invest in that. Thank you.
I will go back to the panel.
This question is for all of you. The Lake Charles Civic Center used to be a staple for bringing entertainment to Lake Charles. In the past, they've hosted concerts including Elvis Presley, ZZ Top, Chicago, and Hootie and the Blowfish. We've had semi-professional football teams and ice hockey teams that garnered attendance of 4,500 people a game. What would you do to utilize the Civic Center differently than it is used today, and how would you budget it?
How would I budget it? There's already money in the budget for the Civic Center. So the Civic Center has never been what it could be. We just kept doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. The Civic, I went to a concert. I'm old. I went to a KISS concert in 1976 in the Civic Center, and ever since the 80s, we've not gotten any major artists. And when they redid the Civic Center, again, you got to do stuff that makes sense. When they redid the Civic Center, they took out the locker rooms and put suites. So now we have suites in the Civic Center. So you can't even have a tournament in the Civic Center because we don't have locker rooms. When they upgraded the system in there, you have to have at least 10,000 capacity seats to catch a tour on the way through. You have to have the sound, state-of-the-art sound. You have to have state-of-the-art lights. Why didn't anybody say something? We're just throwing money at something all willy-nilly with no plan. That's money that could be used somewhere else. Ask somebody who knows. And now we have a company that failed in Beaumont managing it. That doesn't make sense to me. You have a civic center that doesn't make sense, so it doesn't work. And at this point, I'm not necessarily sure we should keep it. I think we should figure out a way to get a company to come in here and do a development on the civic, in that property, and let them do what they need to do so that we can have activity on the lakefront and stop talking about it and be about it. Rebuild, reimagine. I am tired of losing to Lafayette.
Well, I agree with most of that, but I think that we need to utilize the Civic Center in a different capacity. Just recently, going through the ice storm, it should have been available to the homeless people to use as a shelter. Now, I know that they're saying that they couldn't do things because of the COVID protocol, but that didn't stop for early voting last November, and it didn't stop when they were voting for the Marshall's race. So there were hundreds of people in the Civic Center at that time. We could have utilized it for that. It can also be utilized for gatherings like it used to be years in the past. And then you can generate revenue by saying anyone on the property has to purchase food and beverage from the Civic Center. So therefore, at all times, it's generating revenue.
We need a hotel at the Civic Center. And I believe before that happens, the Civic Center is never going to reach its full potential. That was one of the many things on the to-do list before the pandemic hit. And obviously, nobody's in the mood to build a hotel right now with everything going on. The Civic Center needs a rehab on the outside. The exterior looks the same way it did 45 years ago. And it needs an uplift. It needs an upgrade. It needs more connectivity to downtown. It shouldn't be an island out there on its own. We need to connect it more to downtown so that people can go enjoy dinner and then walk to the Civic Center from a show or vice versa. And then lastly, what we're doing on the lakefront is going to be a huge benefit to not only the lakefront but also the Civic Center. With Port Wonder and Crying Eagle, the rehab of the parking garage, we are creating an experience on the lakefront. Millennium Park is our most popular park. Can you imagine Millennium Park, the Civic Center, going out to dinner on the lakefront with your family, enjoying Port Wonder with your family? We are creating so much synergy and so much connectivity around there that will help the Civic Center reach its full potential. Thank you.
Well, as the shot was taken before, I don't know T.I. and I'm not a groupie. I just marched on side of him. I wish I had his number because I would invite him to do a concert and pack the house. I'm not on the big prestigious board. So the Civic Center has 7,450 seatings to be exact. It has outside management company, and those are all facts. So let's say this. If you had a business, which is you have small businesses, and it could be open during COVID because we are doing a pandemic. Outside of all that, on normal operations, put it on sale. Get it to where local people can rent it and utilize it. If you have an entity, the McDonald's brand. The McDonald's brand does well because they have cheap burgers. That's what draws you in. And then they sell you the value meal. Are you supersized? If they still do that. Because I know things have changed. They don't do that anymore. But I'm saying, in business, when things don't work for you, you drop the price. You go back to the board. Ask the community. There's tons of entrepreneurs here. What can we do to get y'all to put local dollars into this entity? Also, open up something aside for the kids on the weekends. We used to have Thibodeau's Hall. We used to have dances. These things could be conducive to positivity for the children. It's going to bring revenue, and it brings local money back home. Let's save local jobs. Thank you.
No rebuttals? Okay, we'll take 3 more questions from the audience in this order. Antonio Duhon, Mr. Jacob Kartoff, is that right? And then Javon Muhammad. So we'll start with Antonio Duhon.
Just take it. If you had one thing, kind of put on the spot here. If you were elected mayor, the question is for everybody. If you were elected mayor, what could you do to help the kids in all communities, especially North Lake Charles, but what can be the development for all children?
Again, like I said, the village, I'm going to stick with that because if we've got the entire city and if we've got all industry invested in our children for our city, and I think specifically the at-risk children will be the ones that I'll be focusing on, because if we can get them active and interested, then that's going to make a difference. Because as an adult, you know, whenever you're young, you don't really understand what it is. You go into dangerous situations without thinking, but once you have something to lose, that changes. It's called growth and wisdom. Now, they won't get growth and wisdom early, but if we can get them involved in the internships with businesses around here, with mentorships with entrepreneurs and community leaders, and if we can get the counseling, the conflict resolution, the crisis management, and at this point, y'all, we all have PTSD. If we can get PTSD counseling, I think my battery's dying. PTSD counseling for them as well. But if we have the whole city in the village taking an interest in our children, then it's going to change automatically because they have attention, they have people focusing on them, and they have an example. And once you've seen something different, it makes you act differently. You know, I watch you, I tell you all the time, rumble, young man, rumble. You saw somebody be successful, and then you put that in your head. You're like, I'm gonna be successful. And then you just took it to a whole nother level. Just imagine if we can get all the children in the city to be in relationship with someone like him, someone like I see all the business people in here, Sae, Mike. If we can get those kids involved with these people, their scores are gonna go up, the schools are gonna be more peaceful, and then the scores are gonna go up, and the city's gonna be a better place to live. The village, it's easy. And from the mayor's office, I can make those phone calls, and they'll come. We're reimagining it. We're rebuilding it. We're making it work for the city of Lake Charles.
Well, I stated earlier that we need youth programs with business owners, pastors, and counselors at the wheel. Taking it a step further, alternative schools that teach trades, because let's face it, a lot of people don't go to college. But we can focus on getting them the technical skills that can get them ready for the workforce. I know that LaGrange has programs that works with some of the youth that teach them paint and body skills and small engine repair and stuff like that. So these are some programs that we need to focus on getting in place for our youth.
I'd like to discuss some things that we are doing right now and things that we will continue to do if I'm granted 4 more years. Our Partners in Parks programming has been absolutely beautiful. And we've mentioned public partnerships a lot. Well, we've actually done it under my administration. When I first came into office, we took a tour of all of our city parks. I remember specifically going up to McMillan Park one day, and I was greeted by barbed wire and chain link fence, rusty equipment. Wasn't exactly the ideal welcome sign to a family. Partners in Parks has raised over $750,000 from the private sector. That's with no additional burden on the taxpayer, and we have used that to transform our parks, not only through aesthetic improvements, but programming. There is beautiful programming that's going on at McMillan and Riverside right now. At Riverside, obviously, there's more of a focus on nature, but we are engaging children weekly at those locations. We're going to continue to do that. We have a Boys and Girls Club in this city for the first time in 35, 40 years, I believe. That happened under my administration because of Partners in Parks. We have Teen Connection. Those are events where we are encouraging our teens to learn more about city government, to learn more about a myriad of topics that's going to help them to be a complete and full part of this community. I mentioned LCPD a moment ago, and they do reading sessions with kids in the schools, and our Mayor's Youth Partnership has an amazing program called Shed the Bias, where we get kids from different backgrounds, put them together, and I just know that we're going to continue to do those things, build off of them. Thank you.
Real quick, let me say something. I grew up as one of those at-risk kids. I went to McNeese twice and had to drop out because of survival. That's my whole life. So the kids you're speaking of, you're talking to a man that comes in the elements. I appreciate these well-educated brothers trying to think outside of the box. I come from that box. I grew up in the projects where it was riddled with crime and everything else. But we had morals, we had values. If you were in the things where you were maybe smoking pot, they wouldn't do it in front of the kids. If you were committing crime, they would do it in front of the kids. You gotta bring back those morals. You gotta bring back those values. We gotta do community efforts. We have all the resources here. You don't have to add any extra money. We just have to stop being so capitalistic and so peacockish. Lake Charles is divided up into groups. You have several great churches. You have several great entities. You have several great groups all over. Break out of those narratives and help someone if you really care. Ain't that all God's plan? For us to look out for each other, grab somebody by the hand if you see them do wrong. As my campaign, people been talking down and saying all this and that. I left my phone number. Nobody reached out to me personally so they could contact me. That's part of the discrepancy. It's part of where the baton drops. Let's help each other instead of talking down on each other. If you see someone doing wrong, put them to the side. Boy, young girl, man or woman, gender neutral, however. Work with somebody. Don't just say something. Do something. Save a life. Put your hand out there. Really care. Get involved. Thank you.
I'm Jacob Cardiff, and I come here today from a father's heart's perspective. For the last 2 years, I've had to watch my youngest son get drugged through the unfair and gender-biased court systems where men don't get a fair shake. I want to know what you're talking about kids right now. What are you going to do to change the actual court systems that keep all of these fathers out of these children's lives because we don't have father for equal rights laws? You want to change kids? You want to change your community? Get the fathers back in and present. What are you going to do to change the courts and bring father for equal rights laws to Louisiana, to Lake Charles? What are you going to do to help out? It's for all of y'all. I want to know. I want to know why my kids suffered. I want to know what you're going to do to help every other father and every other child. What are you going to do?
Pastor, first of all, my prayers go out to you. As a dad, anytime I have a 3-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter, and until you are a parent, you never really just know how it feels. I remember hearing about things happening with someone's kids, and when you become a parent, you automatically just internalize that and think, oh my God, what if that was my child? I can tell you that as mayor, I certainly would open my door to you to talk about this issue anytime. And I want to become more educated about that. But, you know, I don't know if the city of Lake Charles directly has authority over that judicial system that you're talking about. So certainly to advocate for you, to help make connections between local and our state leaders, that would be, I think, the best way that we could move forward.
Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to say that I was a single father. And, you know, contrary to what you may hear, I was also on assistance as a single father. So I feel you. Now, granted, my son didn't have the unfortunate, didn't get involved in stuff like that, but I definitely understand where you're coming from, wanting to be in your child's life. And because I had to take over for when my son's mother fell short. So I raised my son, and I did it on purpose. Now, I don't know the legalities of the court system in that way, but we do know a lot of people who have access to those things. So I would connect you. I would meet with you if you called. And I would work really hard to get you connected to the people that we needed to get connected to. Not because I feel you and I'm a single father, because it's the right thing to do. My door at City Hall will always be open. Now, will you always be able to get to me personally? I'm running the city. But will you always be heard? Absolutely. Will somebody get to you? Absolutely. Will you find out if we can do something for you? Absolutely. And I will see it to the end. That's my commitment to everyone here and everyone watching it. I'm going to be the mayor for all the people. And you can be heard at City Hall when I'm there. Thank you. And I'm sorry for that.
Well, I too was a single father. I raised 4 kids on my own. 3 of my own and my younger brother when my mother passed away. So I can understand what you're going through. And there is a group that you can reach out to. Is a father's rights group that does step in to help keep fathers with their children. You can just Google it and it will pop up. So there is an organization out there that does help, and they help with any legal fees that you have to incur going to court for that process. So there are some avenues out there to help you out, sir.
Well, I'm gonna give you straightforward answers, and I'm not gonna jive with you. The mayor is right under the judges, and the judges are elected. So if you don't like the judges, let's get them out of there and get some new judges in there. Let's get them some new senators, some new House of Representatives. I don't know what you're going through, so my heart goes out to you. But I'm gonna say this. I went through a similar plight. As a young man, I'm not gonna give them no ammunition against me. I was locked up out of state. My Aunt Mary Lewis that's dead, she came get me when everybody was turning their back on me. I was held out of state on a flight risk as a juvenile. Beat up by police, tased, Mays, I'm black. Every time I leave the house, they gotta cry, they gotta pray. Joshua, you did something wrong. I've always been a good dude. You gotta get punched down to say that you just wanna go home. And you don't know if you're gonna go home. And you sitting in a cold jail cell on something you didn't do, and everybody don't believe you because you black. So I understand. I promise you I do. And I promise you legislation gonna change. Now through the mayor, that's over my head. So trust me, when I say I feel you, I promise you I feel you. And things gonna change. And we need to get people that we elect, we need to hold them accountable. So as a mayor, my heart goes out to you, but my hands are tied. But again, we need to look at the laws that are passed, the people that are passing. And we need to get those people out of there. We need to get judges, we need to get senators, we need to get representatives, we need to get people that represent the hearts of the people that matter, not just politicians. And that's who I am, a people person. I'm not a politician, and I'll have all the fancy words and polished etiquette. But I can tell you this, I'm relatable, because I've been in just about every situation you could think of. Not granted, I can't relate to everybody, and I'm not gonna say that. But I can say that I feel you, and my heart goes out to you. My heart goes out to your child. And if you don't get the results now, and the judges, whoever you've been going up against, all right, then you can go through petitions, through Baton Rouge, through the ethics board, and you get the people bottled up. Because you can get results, and you can get them fast as you like.
Good evening.
After this question, we'll do closing arguments.
Okay, perfect. So I hope, if you all know the real true meaning of equity, could you just give me a nod? Okay, so the basis of my question is about equity. I've been here in Lake Charles for 2 years, and I come from the West Coast. And I have listened to the conversations about things like grocery stores and things like improvements on the north and things that are happening in the central side. And all of these things as we try to reconcile our experience throughout the country, which is why Black Lives Matter, because there's a wealth gap that exists that we didn't create for ourselves. It's attached to history and the lack of equity. And so one of the things that I've noticed in this movement for equity is the demographic of Lake Charles. Nearly 50% of the population of Lake Charles is Black. Yet that is not reflected in city government. Most of the answer to the questions that we've asked tonight have to do with equity. If we had leadership that represented the city in trueness, when we look at the demographics, then a lot of these questions would go away, because you would have representation that understands what it's like to be like on the north side, the central side, the downtown side, all of the sides. But here and in other places, the struggle is to get fair representation, not anything extra, just fair representation. If half of the city is Black, half of the representation should be Black. That's equity, or that is us trying to achieve equity. So my question is, for the next mayor or the continuing mayor, how will you work to make sure that city leadership reflects the demographics of the city so that we can move forward in economic development and all those things that matter? And that could be appointment or it could be employment, however your plan is.
Thank you for that question. That's one of the reasons that I'm running. Besides the fact that I believe that God has me on this path, He has me on this path because it's a time as this. If I was really a politician, there's no way I would run right now, because there's no reason to run. The smart politician would let him take all the hits for the next 2 years or 3 years or 4 years and then come in later after everything's over. But the equity piece, if I'm in office, inherently, I'm looking out for us. But the way I do that is I create a clear path to promotion. There's a clear path to promotion, because I've talked to people in the city, and in the last 30 years since I've been here, I've known people, and what's happened is they go, they work, they give their all, they're in it, they're pushing, and then when it comes time for promotion, somebody comes from the outside, and miraculously there's another person who's more qualified to take over that job. That happens because there's no empathy, and the equity never happens because there's nobody at the top to go, wait, that's not right. I would be here to look out for the best interest of all people, but to help out with the equity, because if we're trying to look over a fence and it's 5 feet and we all get 3 foot stools, but we're not all 6 feet, that's equality, that's not equity. Equity is we'll bring that thing up so that everybody has the same view. Now it's going to take a minute. It's going to take a minute. We're not gonna race somebody over because then we'll be just as bad as the people who came before us. But a clear path to promotion will do a lot towards alleviating that. And I will promote one of the seven directorships and make that look like the city as well, because I hear that they're going to be leaving. So I'm going to have some spaces open.
Okay, you stated about the positions that are elected. Well, when you start talking about elections, you have to look at the people in the community that elect the officials. So a lot of times you're not seeing the equity because the people in the community are not showing up and doing what needs to be done. A lot of times broken trust has been an issue. As stated with the current administration, that there's things that haven't been seen, especially on the north side. There's people in the central Lake Charles that feel the exact same way. So we have to rebuild the trust factor and let people know that we're actually out here to work on their behalf. But we need the communities to show up and let their voices be heard in order for things to really be an effective change. Thank you.
My executive team is very diverse. I have a more diverse executive team on the 10th floor of City Hall than even my predecessor, and I'll continue to have that. I think that the makeup of a mayor's inner circle should represent the city. And if you look at my team, my go-to team that I work with every morning and get out into the neighborhoods with on a weekly basis, daily basis, you see a diversified group. And also I've promoted numerous African Americans to leadership positions and will continue to do so. But again, as I said with the deputy chief position, I've never hired someone just because they're black. I've never hired someone just because they're white. I've hired them because of their experience, their dedication, their qualifications. And so every African American on my team, and I want them to hear this, they were not hired or promoted because they were black. They were hired or promoted because of who they were and those qualifications and their dedication. Thank you.
They say the best for last. To give kids to look up to something, you have to give them something to look up to. That's part of the whole reason why I'm running. Because I give a different demographic of kids something to believe in that they don't have in the city, to connect something different. So, with saying that, I'm gonna say this. Upon whether I win or not, I'd be willing to work with this administration, or whatever administration, in order to make my community better, which I've been doing before, because I humbly do it. Because being the leader at the top, if you want to change something, you gotta shoot for the head. That's what I learned in the hood. So, let me say this. Louisiana is an at-will state, and I know from the confrontations that I've had going to City Hall lately, being mayor, getting resources, it's a bunch of y'all gonna lose y'all job. And I said that with my chest. Louisiana is an at-will state. And I won't say who, but I got my list in order. So we're gonna change things drastically. And I'm gonna bring in, it doesn't matter what shade of the spectrum you are, but I'm gonna bring in well-educated people that are very versed and very abreast to situations at hand. That's how you're gonna keep local jobs local. And with that flush, it gives kids a different contrast of something to look up to. We need to build more on the people that are here, man. We have beautiful people here. So, but again, I can't ask questions, so I can't go off into what I want to say, but I'll say that if you elect Joshua Lewis, that'll be fair, just, swift change, and a fresh new leadership at the top that could do 20 years, and they can dance circles around anybody at the table. Thank you.
All right, so we have made it to the end. It's time for closing arguments, and we'll start with Mr. Ardoin and work our way down, respectfully.
Thank y'all, thank y'all, thank y'all. You have heard a lot of info today. You've heard a lot of promises. You heard a lot. But I'd like you to take this home with you. If you're tired of the way things have always been, now is the time to do something different. Now you're gonna hear, like I said earlier, he's not qualified. You know, it's a critical juncture. You know, we shouldn't change. You know, never change leaders in the middle. But Martin Luther King said there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. And this is the right time. Because right now, everything is broken. We've experienced 2 hurricanes. We've experienced a freeze. And we're putting everything back together. My question to you, the electorate of Lake Charles, is do you want the same hands putting those pieces back together? Because we've been electing the same person, not the same physical person, but the same persona to that office for the last 30, 40 years. We've not gotten different results. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. How long are we going to be relegated to second position in this city? Are we going to keep electing the same person over and over, expecting different results? I say no. I say now is the opportunity for us to think about putting someone in, i.e. me, so we can rebuild and reimagine this city together. Thank you.
Like Sean said, to keep electing the same type of person and expecting something different is the definition of insanity. I'm not a politician. So if you elect a politician, you get a politician. So, you know, all the time we're gonna say, I wanna do this, I wanna do that, but you have to have a clear-cut plan. In 2017, Mr. Hunter stated that he was going to decrease the homeless population that has increased. And he said he was gonna make the streets safe. Crime rate has went up. He said he was going to get more jobs along I-10. That hasn't been seen. He said that there are going to be better pay wages, that people are still making below average. So you have to think in this election, do you want 4 more years of empty campaign promises, or do you want somebody that's going to actually come out and step up and do things that's going to benefit your communities and get your people and your family back home? It's about bringing our families back home. Everybody has spoken, but no one has said anything about bringing your families back home. Are they left out on purpose? Y'all be the judge. Thank you.
Well, again, I want to thank the organizers and the moderators and everyone for being here tonight. An event like this is not easy to pull off, and I really hope everyone out there in the virtual world understands the amount of work that went into putting this on tonight. And people deserve an opportunity to hear from their mayor. They deserve an opportunity to hear from the opponents. And so we need events like this, and I was honored to be here this evening. You know, other than being a dad and a husband, being mayor has been the greatest honor of my life. And I'll tell you, in recent history, with everything we have been through, sometimes I feel insane for wanting this job again. But, you know, I've heard a couple people say electing the same guy over and over again. I don't understand that. I really don't. I'm not Randy Roach. So Randy and I are very different people. I have great respect for Randy. So I'm not sure exactly what your point is by saying keep electing the same person over and over again. Tonight, I hope that you've heard from me a healthy mix of what we're going to do over the next 4 years, but also not just lyrics, not just rhymes, not just pie in the sky, things that have actually happened over the last 4 years. Mr. Bernard, I respectfully disagree with you that we've had empty campaign promises. I'm very proud of the record. And I'll tell you again, I've had 4 years as mayor with 1 entire year filled by a pandemic and 2 hurricanes. Lakefront development, infrastructure, economic development into underserved areas of this city, economic diversity. We are getting more conversation and more traction on these items than ever before in recent history. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a lot of respect for these gentlemen sitting next to me. And I am honored that here in Lake Charles, I believe we have set a bar pretty high. And, you know, tonight got a little heated at times, but I am honored to be in this city where we can be reasonably civil with each other. And I ask for 4 more years as your mayor. Thank you.
Oh, man. feel like I couldn't get everything out there fast. But closing arguments? We doing? All right. Whew. First, I'd like to apologize to the Delta group. I missed your forum, and I'm a man, and I like to apologize publicly. Secondly, I'd like to apologize to a group of wonderful individuals, the Vessel group. I'm a very petty individual at times, and I called out all these other candidates, and I threw that group in there, and they had nothing to do with my antics. I'm a man, and I'm a man that'll say, I'm humble enough to apologize. Let me say this, because I'm going to get very irate. I need your attention. Stop telling people that the black people splitting the vote. The people that will vote for Sean wouldn't vote for me if it was me and Nick. Y'all would vote for Sean, y'all would vote for Nick. Come on, man, let's be honest with ourselves. And Brother Jesse is a smart brother, but he gonna get 100 votes. Joshua Lewis, he gonna get 10,000 votes. I'm telling you, I'm gonna win head up, no runoff. I'm a people person. With the last presidential election, it showed you that you could hire somebody for a job without no background in the industry. Stop telling people that I can't run off my address. I got a plan, but I can't reveal it. Anybody with a pending court case will know that you can't reveal your hand until you go to court. I'd be honored to work with any administration if I don't win, because the common goal is the people. I want to thank Fusion 5 for not inviting me to their forum. If also being biased and prejudiced. I want you to know that I'm a shine anyway, Jack. So let me say this. When you're biased against an individual, when you're prejudiced against an individual, you can't stop it because those times are going to end, and we shall overcome. You need a people person. Vote for people, don't vote for money. You can look at all the local candidates, me, Sean, and Jesse. We spend big money in this town, but how many people support us? So that shows you how things really change in this town and how money really moves the industry. We spend a lot of money in this economy, but we don't get it back. Look at all our campaign finances. God bless y'all. Good night. Let's all win under Joshua Lewis.
Thank you so much. So closing remarks before we let you guys go for today. I want to thank everyone in the audience for being here today. Thank y'all so much. Give yourself a hand real quick. To the over 700 people that are tuning in online, thank you guys as well for being here and joining us and being active on the line as well. I also want to thank really quick Kennedy and Breon. Could y'all stand real quick? So these young ladies started a group called 327 Vote Project, and they've been inspiring people not to pick a candidate, but just to get out and vote. I want you guys to talk about this really, really quick. I'll put them on the spot.
Hey y'all, so our organization is focused on voter registration, education, and turnout. If you guys do look at numbers and are big on analytics, we have a low voter turnout. It's not, it doesn't go up, it doesn't go low, we're kind of just like at a low voter turnout. So we want to change that. You got something to say, Kennedy?
And also, if any of you are available on March 13th during the early vote day, we'll be hosting an event called Pedal to the Polls. Pedal to the Polls is a community event that informs, engages, and mobilizes voters while merging entertainment and exercise. We'll be starting at Veterans Memorial Park, and we'll be pedaling to the courthouse to cast our early vote. Pedaling like on a bicycle, yes.
So you guys y'all will need bicycles. We will have bicycles you guys can rent as well. But it is very recommended to bring your own bike too. So thank you so much, Carrie, for including us into this.
Let's make some noise, young people. We talk a lot of times about what young people are not doing in the community, but these young people are doing a wonderful job, and I want to make sure they knew that we appreciate what they do. Also want to thank Soup Kitchen Media, for being with us, for promoting the event. Then we're going to wrap up with interviews, people in the audience, as well as the candidates shortly. Wallace Digital, there's Melody right here. She's done a great job. So I want to thank you for being a part of this, and to our candidates. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. I know it cannot be easy. I know it can't be easy to take these questions, but you guys did a great job. We didn't have no fights. We didn't have no breakout. We showed people that we can also civilly disagree and have a conversation. And I hope that no matter who wins the election, that we'll all work together for the betterment of Lake Charles, because that's what really matters. To the panelists, thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. And thank you for what you do in the community. Thank you so much for doing the community. Our timekeeper, thank you so much, Ms. Angel. as well. I also want to thank Donovan Como Media, who was a part of the event as well. I'm giving the final word of the night to the pastor of this incredible church. Thank you, the Sound Church. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all for everything. You guys are amazing.
Well, it's been a great night. We have a great city. Let's make a great decision. God bless you. Good night.